Guruji, Namaste to the devotees, the followers, and those that are watching and listening on live stream. Namaste. I'm going to apologize from the beginning to everyone because the last time I spoke Hindi was when my granny was still alive. And so my granny used to, because I was a Muslim, we spoke Urdu, and Urdu and Hindi is very similar. And so when my granny spoke to me in Urdu, I responded in Urdu because she was not one that is fluent. So I'm stating this, my apology in advance, because I'm 40 years today, and the last time I had the opportunity to either speak Hindi or Urdu was when I was 12 years. So along the journey, I am bound to make mistakes, but those mistakes are not purposeful, but they are because it's been a long time since I've polished on that. This morning I sat, sometimes if I could have taken the mask so you could see my face, it was in full smiles. Because as a young man, I sometimes look into the future, and now I look back, and I ask myself, where is this respect in society? Forget it on the political spectrum, because I don't think they have it at all in my observation or my analysis. Politicians take the platform forgetting that their main purpose is to present themselves. And sometimes, like we have heard this morning, they leave themselves out and it becomes a boxing ring. And so they feel by hitting another politician in vocabulary or in their approach is actually going to garnish more support. But in garnishing more support, what they're actually doing is destroying the nation even further and eroding the nation of whatever good values and good morals that needs to be instituted back again into our foundations. I'm going to stick to a theme because I knew that it was about oneness. But before I go into the theme, let me also pick up on everything that you have spoken about, because it is something that should have been done by religious leaders. When I say religious leaders, I'm not capping it to any particular religion. Religious leaders across the board should be speaking what you had spoken this morning to their congregations and to their followers and to their devotees. And if those discussions happened many years ago, we won't be where we are today. Why? Because there'll be mutual respect. There'll be understanding. I came today not feeling divided. Firstly, thank you to Jessica and Santish, with your permission, because they have represented this institution in the same manner you have presented it this morning, and I know them for a long time, even though we have been in different political parties. Whenever we spoke, we never spoke from the place of political party, but we spoke from the place of who we are and our values. And we still continue to engage like that. Politics don't divide, politicians divide. Politics ought to grow, ought to build, ought to unite, and bring us towards a common purpose of ensuring the nation is progressive. And how do you know the nation is progressive? Is not by looking at a politician and assessing a politician's life, but by looking at the people in the community and on the ground, and you will be able to know whether that nation is progressive. Spiritual leaders such as yourself play a very important role in South Africa. Why? Because the foundation of our nation has been eroded. It is non-existent. We can go to work, we can go to politics, and even sometimes we get into our religious organizations and it's not there. How is it not there? In the manner we conduct ourselves, in the manner we speak. When I entered here, this was no two crowds, me, independent, and there's another group. No, why? Because it became a place that was safe. Politicians ought to create that safe environment. Despite our religious differences, when we meet one another, we understand this individual comes from God. And if you're a godly person, no matter your vocation, but because today it's politics, you will respond to the next person not as just a politician that is abrupt, but you'll respond to the next person from the values called God. And you'll treat them with dignity, respect, honor, and appreciation. Guruji, you raised and defined many things today. I think if there's anyone that wants to debate on those, probably they should just keep quiet and not debate. On defining aspects. And you were true that politicians use the platform and they would just throw out things without understanding its true meaning. As long as you register with the IEC, you are correct. You're a politician. As long as you put your name in the ballot paper, you are a politician. And you're a public representative. South Africa faces a problem, and the problem is that our moral standards and our ethics are non-existent. People don't feel anymore for the next person. I was privileged in my early years to experience a culture of communal living, where if my mom did not have salt, for example, we didn't have fences, so she would just walk through the door and take the salt, don't ask permission, and come back and use the salt, and vice versa. My neighbor used to come into our home, and whatever not everything, but certain basics, because they had a commonality and a communal culture, that as long as, we had and you had, and if we did not have, we will make sure you had. That upbringing was something that was instilled inside of me. Loving, caring. I still fathom how people can be rude. I keep quiet. Am I not? Yes. At times we lose it, but I'm quick to arrest it and apologize and ensure I don't do it again to the person I apologize, because without having a strong foundation, it is impossible to build anything. Religion is that strong foundation that ensures whether I'm a public servant or any skilled or individual out there lives in moral standards and with ethics. It's very easy to say, I'm a morally upright person. Or it's very easy to say, I'm a godly person. But how do you know somebody is morally upright? Is when they committed to God. How do you know somebody is a godly person? Is when they ensure that their ethics and their morality is of a high standard. And a high standard doesn't mean that you are better than others. It means that you place an individual responsibility and an individual demand on your own life to ensure you live it in a certain way. And that sometimes in this present day and age is what I call, in the political sector or even in life, you have to be like a salmon that is swimming against the tide. And if I'm correct in saying this institution had presented itself as a salmon that is swimming against the tide of what is out there in society, because your approach is to build, is to unify, it is to ensure that the spirit of Ubuntu is prevalent first, not in society, first prevalent in our heart. Because when it's prevalent in our heart, then we become champions to ensure that whomever we come across, we will rub off that spirit of Ubuntu to them. And it's your privilege. And for those that sit under these type of institutions and these type of leaders, to get not just, the word used was blah, a vocabulary, but to get the heart and the spirit, so that it is transferred, so that you'll become a true representation of this. I did not want to get involved in politics. When I was a young man, watching the black and white small screen TV, looking at the late and former President Nelson Mandela being released, I had this picture that one day I'm going to be standing when he was in Parliament and addressing the nation. But we all as young people are ambitious to become entrepreneurs, to get wealthy and to travel the world. And so I was running from what was my purpose and my destiny, because I had my own ideas and I was wanting to do things my own way. Until one day, my pastor, when I moved on from Islam, I became a Christian. My pastor said to me, "You are running, it is time that you stop, and this is where you need to be." And he repositioned me in the political spectrum. And when I sought God, the first thing God said to me is that I am sending you there, but ensure you represent me in values, in ethics, with integrity. Why? Because those that ought to be there have now corrupted themselves in the system. And you ensure you become, the word was a model and as an example. From then till now, I still keep the word fresh, because whenever somebody comes to me, especially business people, I get worried. Why? Because it's very easy to get corrupted in that particular environment. Why? Because everybody wants what they want from you, instead of you ensuring what you have been called here to do. So I keep the mandate like how Guruji, you keep the mandate. Why am I doing this? Is because I don't want to present anything less what I know. Because what I know is me, is the values. Why? Because like the Guruji said, it's going to be tested. It's going to be tried. And if you got cracks, it will be exposed. If you're a liar, it will be exposed. If you're a hypocrite, it will be exposed. Why? This is a social media platform, and a platform that you are presenting, and people will come back to test it in what you say here. And so I don't take any platform lightly. Why? Because I'm going to be held accountable to everyone, not even those that are listening and those that are seated here, but my accountability is first to God. And then to ensure what is coming out of my mouth is true of who I am. But South Africa is a beautiful nation, Guruji, you know, because I've believed and I've done a minute research. Intellectual, understand the political spectrum, served on national platforms, understand grassroots, middle, higher. So I can't train you on politics, and neither can I speak to you about politics, because you come with not just knowledge, but you come with experience, which is lacking today. What is lacking today for politicians, especially those that are emerging, is understanding there were some that have paid the price and have been walking the journey. And when you come in as what is considered to be a new broom, the best thing to always do is to go into what is called an understudy. Why? Because what you say sometimes is as if you forgot there are many others that have been paving the way and in the journey. And so when you present, you actually attack them ignorantly. I always tell the elderly, which I love, I said that there's nothing I can teach you about except I can be more articulate than you, because you know this world better than me. And it's a simple way to conclude it. If I have to look at your ID and my ID, your age tells me you're longer on earth. I can't teach you about earth, you can teach me about earth. Why do I say that? Is because there are many political parties and many politicians that are just emerging, that is not wanting to go through the understanding of the history of this nation, where we have come from. We have come from a battered past. We have come from a bruised past. We have come from an oppressed and a suppressed and a divided nation. And when we were given that opportunity to unite for the common good of nation building, we all grabbed that opportunity. And if we had the opportunity in 1994 to go to the polls, we all went to the polls to ensure that what was promised of actually it wasn't even a promise of a better future, it was the word called freedom that we latched onto, and we went to the polls in celebration of freedom and a hope of a better future. And that's what we celebrated, and that's what we enjoyed, and that's what kept us together. Like what you did, or what you are currently doing, or what the journey you have taken reminds me, as I was sitting and smiling, of the late President Nelson Mandela, on how he found just something called rugby to bring the nation to a place of unity, something that was a unique sport, but it's something that he used to unite the nation rather than divide the nation. Why? Because he was a nation builder. Politicians are dividing us. They are not helping us at this very moment in time. Should I say not politicians? Most politicians are not helping us to unite the nation. Not coming around the table to discuss the problems that our nation faces. Now that I have this bridge built with this institution, it excites me. There was a situation in Chatsworth within these past 2 years. a situation that was religious, but it was destroying the community. Facebook became an attack between two religious groups of people, to the point where there was such tense in the community that you don't even know if it's going to be a community uproar and violence. At that moment in time, the only organization, so yes, I would apologize because I should have spoken to Jessica, who I'm close to. But at that moment in time, the only organization that I knew was the Hindu Mahasabha, which is Mr. Ashram Trikamji. And I called him. I said, shared my heart with him because he knew me. And I said that I'm a young man that wants to ensure the community is built in unity, that we have respect for each other, we value each other. I can go to the church in the morning and my neighbor can go to the temple in the morning, but I must still love them and respect them and mustn't allow our religious viewpoints to separate us. And so we had a meeting, and it was a meeting that had to do with an intervention, religious faiths coming together to intervene in the challenge that was happening in Chatsworth. And so we had a Zoom meeting because of the lockdown. You could not meet physically. And so I pulled some pastors together, and he pulled some Hindu priests together, and we had the Muslim community also on board. So I didn't want to make it two, but I was wanting to bring religious organizations together so that we could dialogue on the way forward, which is nation building and uplifting the community. I'm not hoping for another one because it means that I'm hoping that there is religious intolerance in the community. But I'm wanting to reinforce. And so that's why these doors are important, to reinforce social cohesion, religious tolerance in our community, and a sense of value and respect in our society. If my granny and my grandfather did not look at the next person, that's the upbringing I was brought in, did not look at the next person from a religious lens, but looked at them from a human lens, that they are God's people and I'm God's person. That's the lens I still use today. Why? Because you can never rebuild a nation if you don't have the lens of God, which is to view everyone as God's person. Why? Because then you will respect, you will value, and it is impossible to say you're a godly person also if you're not willing to serve. God and servant leadership go hand in hand. And so South Africa is a beautiful country. We have, this is a country that is so spiritual in its essence that when we have to look at the current day problem, and I would concur with you, religious leaders have failed. Because if we are able to take our podiums, or whether it's a Sunday, Monday, or whichever day, and retrain our people to understand that religion is not just here, but here it is where you are sharpened. Here is where you are molded and shaped, so that when you leave this place, you leave as a better godly person. So when you're in politics, like what you said, you put your hand to the cookie jar. There's no need for you to even be tempted if you are molded and shaped in godly values, and if you have moral standards and integrity. There's no need for the cookie jar. Why? Because you know that if God puts you on this particular platform, it is to represent God and to serve His people. God's people cannot be still suffering after 27 years of democracy. I was in Amlazi last week, and I said to them, if you are happy living in a shack, then you have believed a lie for too long. If you are happy to see our grannies walk a kilometer or 2 kilometers with a bucket to fetch water, to bring it back home, you have believed a lie for too long. If you have no water, which for us has become a commonality in recent times, you just find your water being disconnected. There's no reason as to what's happening. Sometimes the officials come to inspect. They just look at it, then they drive away. These are some of the complaints I get back from the community. They are gone, and people are left with no water for probably days. And if we say that it's okay, we continue in the cycle of believing a lie. If Eskom does not provide us electricity, I don't know what local government has been doing for 27 years to ensure that they did not develop other means of supply to ensure the people had electricity. It means we're continuing in the same cycle of a lie. Forget the roads. Nowadays you can't drive according to the rule of the road. I'm hoping the Minister of Transport hears me. And if he says to Metro they must find somebody, then before they find somebody, they must ensure they repair the roads, because there's too many potholes. Because in today's roads you have to drive zigzag so that your tire don't get destroyed. So the infrastructure has dilapidated. Now I know that in the past month they have been not repairing, let me use the correct word. They have been putting stitches on the road. I mean, wherever there is a pothole, now these guys are just putting tars just so that it's smooth for that moment in time, and they are moving on until a heavy rain comes and that tar is uprooted and the pothole is back there. So they are only stitching the road and not solving the problems. This has been happening every time we come into election time. That last month is dedicated for that. Budget is dedicated. It's factual and truthful. I don't want to lie to you, because then I'm going to be joining the crowd. I don't want to be the first person to bash me, because I've always stood on truth. Jessica knows me well. Money's been invested in cutting the verges now. Your parks, I'm sure many of you are no more complaining because they cut the grass now. Your lanes, they cut the grass. And whatever minor things they ought to be doing, which was a normality of a municipality in terms of service delivery, it's only happening now because it is election time. The question we must ask ourselves is, I think if I'm correct, they say sanity is when you keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a new result. It's called sanity. Insanity. Sorry, thank you. He did say that I have a media personality, a person that is well qualified, so and he wasn't going to give your accreditations away. Insanity is when we keep doing the same things over and over, expecting new results. It can't happen. 27 years down the line, it is not 1994 when we celebrated our freedom. Now we have to fight on behalf of our nation, and we have to fight on behalf of our better future. And it's a fact. It means I have to fight for you. You have to also fight for me. But not fight in arms and ammunitions, but fight to ensure that we have people that are going to be serving in our local government, provincial government, national government, that are not interested in a salary only, but is interested in bringing service delivery to the people and ensuring the lives of the people are better. Why did I use salary only? It's because I do believe that a person's vocation must be able to resource them. That is debatable as well. Because some politicians want to ensure that their pockets are far bigger than the capacity it can hold. So that's why they walk around with black bags. So you see them going to some churches and they are dishing out money to people. And then when they caught, not realizing somebody posted on social media, then they lie to the people and they say, no, I was giving people offering. No, offering must come from your pocket, not from somebody else's hands to give, because it's an act of giving to acknowledge God in your resources. But they do that. Why am I here this morning? It's because if I want to rebuild the nation and rebuild society and rebuild communities, I cannot refuse an invite because an invite has come from another religious organization. I'm a hypocrite to my own heart. But I'm here to ensure that I build the bridge. Why? Because it is these types of discussions that need to occur more frequently on social media platform, on religious platforms, on governmental sectors, on civic societies, and all those influential platforms, to ensure that whatever is dividing us, even if it's a seed in our mind, we must uproot it. If it's a seed in our heart, we must uproot it. And so by me coming this morning, it is to build the bridge so that the constituency that I represent must also be part of parcel of ensuring we are in dialogues to eradicate any other difference that has divided us. Yes, I'm aware in Phoenix and in many communities there were threats recently with the looting and the uproars. We have a right to protect our property if government fails to ensure security and safety. You have a right to. You did not fail. I did not fail. Government failed us by ensuring that our properties were protected and that our communities were safe. They did not give us that assurance, and so we took certain actions in place to ensure that our communities were safe. As usual, some politicians will turn it into what is considered to be a racial issue, even though there's no racial issue. How do I know? Because I was in Phoenix, but I don't need to have a podium and put structures and to address the people and to create all this unnecessary hype. I was in Mauti, because they said the conflict was between the Phoenix and Mauti. I was there. Even the ACDP president was with me in Phoenix and in Mauti. And our provincial leader and our representatives were there. But where we were, walking the community, speaking to the people, and separating what was true from what was fake news. Why? Because we are leaders of integrity. We are leaders that are ethical. We are leaders that cannot hear a viewpoint without getting to the root of what is really happening. For example, in Mauti, a young man was shot. after consulting with the family, meeting with the family, and saying to the family to also forgive whatever viewpoint she had, we realized the mom did not know who shot the boy. She did not know what race group. But amazingly, journalists knew. They were not on the scene, yet they knew it was another race group. And the same thing happened in Phoenix, Guruji. When we met with the mom, no, we don't know. Even the people that were there did not know because it was dark. But how did media and politicians know it is another race group? Why? Because they are here to fuel something, because it's election time and they need the votes and they use the race card. We can't have it anymore. I'm going to speak for eThekwini, we can't have it anymore. In KwaZulu-Natal, we can't have it anymore. And in this beautiful country called South Africa, we can't have it anymore. Up till this very day, I'm still in community dialogues. Starting with my constituency, the pastors we meet. We met in Merebank, Phoenix, Amlazi, crossed over, and diverse, talking about how as the church we can play our role in ensuring that race does not divide us. I didn't publicize it. Why? Because it is not something that should be politicized, because you're dealing with human lives and you're dealing with people. And if you love God, you must work the foundation and work the people. But today I'm saying it because there's a live Facebook, and there are people here, and the message is about oneness. And when we want to build oneness, we don't need to be creating unnecessary platforms when we are not working the ground, walking with people and helping people and healing people and restoring people and making people see that the next person is your brother and your sister and you must value them. And under the ACDP, that's what I've been doing. Not just as a provincial chair, not just as a mayoral candidate, but even if these titles are taken away from, if I love God and if I say I love God, it must be a natural thing that happens to me. I actually have parked this whole thing over here. So let me close it, because I want to speak from my heart, because it doesn't lie. 27 years have gone by. We have to agree the race card is over. I said to a journalist who said to me, are you willing to go into co-governance? Everyone's talking about co-governance and coalition with the ruling party. I said no. I said the reason why is because not just them, but any political party that is stuck in yesteryear, wanting to build tomorrow, why should I get involved with them when all I'm interested in is building tomorrow? I can't go into the past, but I can help the people where we are today to move forward. And if healing needs to happen, it must happen in the correct way, and it must not happen in the manipulative way. It happened in a manipulative way, not in the correct way. Because the correct way, like you said, deals with the matter of the heart, where you don't return to your vomit, but you move together forward to ensure the nation is rebuilt. What has happened recently shows us we're still divided. We still have a lot of healing that needs to occur. But some of it, as much as it's there, a lot of it was also driven because politicians had divided the gap. For example, the looting, as much as it was stemmed because of a group of people, but eventually we saw the looting become something that has spilled because of social challenges that are happening to people. People don't have food. People don't have what was promised to them as a better future. And so they saw this opportunity and they said, let's loot. And let's steal everything. Who did that? Politicians. Why? Because the role of a local municipality, or one of the functions of local municipality, is to ensure that we have good governance. And that good governance must bring safety, progress, provision, and many other systems into place, so that not just the municipality is progressive, but the people are, like what we spoke about government. So they must find a system that helps everybody to move forward. The fact remains that we still, like I mentioned, we have shacks and we have people walking down the road for water, and some of us don't even know when we go home if we're going to have electricity or water. It tells you that we are still facing the challenges of yesteryear. That needs to stop. How is it going to stop? I can reword what you said in my way. I can't word it like you. We ensure, number one, we have ethical leaders. That's very important. Ethical leaders. Because if they truly understand ethics, they will know the priority is not them, neither it's their constituency, but it's the people. We have leaders that have a moral standard, obligation and responsibility. Why? We've heard it this morning. If you start off with a lie, the rest of it is packaged in the same lie. So if a leader comes and he says, I promise you, like what I'm finding in Phoenix, some of the so-called candidates that are part of the ruling party are promising some people that live in developments that if you vote for me, I'm going to reduce your rent by so much. And so they use what is called threat politics to manipulate the people so that the people can vote, and people vote in fear today. Rather than rising up and saying what you are doing is actually called corrupt under the Constitution. You should not be doing that because I have a right for a reduction in rent, whether I vote for you or I don't vote for you, if you say I have an opportunity. So we need leaders of integrity, leaders that are ethical, leaders that have a moral standing. But if ever there's a time, also we need leaders who are going to prioritize the people before anything else. The people are suffering. I don't think any one of you have called any municipal office where electricity or even water to lodge a complaint where you were successful at your first stance. Yet the municipality keeps saying, phone the water department, phone the electricity department. I don't phone no department, I phone the heads. To be honest with you, most of them have either evaporated or I don't know where they are because they don't take your call as well. You only see them probably at City Hall because whenever we have meetings, they dish out food. So I think they come for the food rather than coming for the purpose of why they are there. Why am I saying all this? Guruji, you started something. In simple terms, I could put it, fix the system. We have to fix the system. Not just politicians, but we also have to fix the system within the municipality. The legislation is good, but the people that are managing these departments are not implementing correctly what they were placed there to do. The head of water, if he's getting paid a salary to do a job, should not come to the ratepayers and tell them his problems. Because it is the ratepayers who are ensuring he gets paid his salary to do his job. Why? Because if he's not competent, replace him. If we got water problems for so many years, and the only thing we're getting from him and his department and the so-called politicians that support them is excuses and complaints, let's replace them. So I said to the residents of eThekwini, Guruji, that as the ACDP we want to fix the system, because we know that, and this is not because just of journalism, but it's a fact that many of them that are employed within the municipal sectors are cadre deployed. And because they are cadre deployed, it doesn't mean they are competent. It doesn't mean they are skilled. It doesn't mean they have the know-how on how to function and to execute their responsibilities. And so I said that when we come into government, we want to do an internal audit on all our municipal managers to ensure that they were not cadre deployed, but they received their employment in the correct ways. And they have the skill and competency. If they do not have the skill and competency, let's replace them with competent and skilled people. And those competency and skill got nothing to do with color of our skin. It must just be based on competency. The other thing we said we're going to do is freeze their bonuses. You and I know that people get bonuses only when they execute a responsibility and when they are scored. Have we received basic services? No. We don't receive basic services. But how are they taking bonuses? Something is wrong with the scoring system. Must freeze their bonuses and reprioritize that money. Why? Because people need jobs. People need better services. People need to ensure that the pace of development in our city at this moment in time is so slow. We need to speed it up. We need to ensure there is more homes. The billing system, don't even go to that one. Wow. This ruling party knew that the billing system failed in Johannesburg. They knew it failed in Tshwane municipality. Yet they invested more than R1 billion to purchase what failed there and to bring it into eThekwini. Why? Because it failed the residents, it did not fail their pockets. It's failing the residents here, but it's not failing their pockets because they still find ways to loot the treasury. We have seen it in the former mayor, and we have seen it in the former city manager, where there are pending charges of corruption that is still sitting before the courts. It took the ruling party more than a year to remove the city manager. And for those of you that don't know, they did not remove him by saying, because you have charges, you are corrupt. The mayor went to cut a deal. And to offer him this, a corrupt man, a corrupt city official, the mayor went to cut a deal with him so that he can vacate his position. Is that what we want in our next 5 years and 27 years? No. I want to serve, or I want to close my statements under backing and supporting and serving what the Guruji said to you all. I can stand and talk as a politician. You have heard many politicians for 27 years, and you're probably going to go home, switch on the TV, and you still listen to some of them speak. The African Christian Democratic Party, we've been around 6 months before 1994 elections, Guruji. I'm sure you probably met our leader when you were on a national platform, because he and the leader that you were with are very close in national parliament. You always have to create pacts to get certain things done in government. And we fought very similar cases and causes like the Zuma Must Fall campaign. And we continue to fight corruption and different things. But my humble plea to all of us, this election is the most critical election since 1994. It is important to me as it is important to you. When you go to the voting station, do not be fooled like what you have listened to this morning by anyone, but measure what every politician is saying to what we learn from our spiritual sources, to ensure that what they are saying is exactly who they are and what they are doing. My commitment, because I can't make a promise. I don't know why politicians make a promise, because we are governed by a legislation. Unless there's a legislation amendment, you can promise. But you can't promise anything, because a promise is a commitment that is binding. There are some legal experts here. But a commitment is what I will continue to do. I've served as a member that has been part of the HHPB task team for, 16 years now, 17 possibly. Human trafficking, harmful tradition, prostitution, pornography, and brothel. I fight the gender-based inequality in South Africa like crazy. I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago, I was walking in central Durban. I went to the pubs. I know some of you say, like, Christian guy going to the pub. Yes, I went to the pub. I went to the nightclub. I went to all these places where men consume all this. And also when men are in this particular platform, they look at women from a derogatory view. And I've spoken to the managers and to the owners, and I said to them, you need to come and partner with us so that GBV comes to an end in South Africa. You need to say to the men, when they come to drink, they're consuming the alcohol for themselves, but not to raise their hands against the woman. You need to say to them, when they're in their nightclubs, yes, they can dance with the woman, but they mustn't look at the woman as just an object or a tool. Why? Because women are important. When women are preserved, a family is preserved, a community is preserved, a nation is preserved. Why? Because they are the birthing ground to ensure we have a better tomorrow. Men can't do what women can do. We can't. If we think we can, we are liars, right, Guruji? We can't. We can't carry a child in our womb. We don't have we weren't made up in that particular way. We're not made up to breastfeed. But more than just those external elements, there's something about a mother's heart and a woman's heart that is very unique from ours. We have our role, which is to ensure we provide a safe environment, a conducive environment for them to function. But I do all this over here because I'm passionate about it. I was in Marion Ridge in the morning before I could travel up in the north. Because the community, they have an indoor court and they have a netball court, which has become like a bush, health hazard. and the people have been trying to reach out to the counselor who you don't see, and for many years. And when they brought it to our attention, we said, let's solve the problem. Forget your politics, forget this, whether government comes or not. Let's go clean up the place. Let's start the process of reviving, rebuilding, restoring it so that the community can enjoy. I said to the ACDP at eThekwini guys, please, in all your communities, identify these places. Why? Because let's go and start the process of reviving, rebuilding, restoring it. Let it be our contribution, whether we become counselors or not, to the development and the progress of our community. I'm saying all this because I know I'm also live. I'm going to be held accountable. I personally am looking forward to building the mutual respect relationship for nation building and community development. And I want to close with this, that as we go to the polling stations on the 1st of November, spiritual leaders in South Africa play an important role. Actually, they play the most important role in this nation. A nation that professes to be spiritual, yet the evidence is lacking. A nation that professes to be a nation that carries the spirit of Ubuntu, yet it is non-existent. A nation that professes that we are a rainbow nation, but yet we have no harmony. Yet we find a particular sector, they say 20% is very wealthy and the rest of the people are on the brink of poverty. A disjunct in terms of the GDP. We find huge problems we can talk for months to come. But come the 1st of November, as we come to our spiritual leaders to seek advice for our mental state, our emotional state, our financial state, our family state, let us also go to them to seek advice and counsel on making correct political decisions. Why? Because they can ensure and they can separate what I call the sheep from the wolves and ensure that we put our vote in those that are ethical, those that are moral, and those that are leaders of integrity. Thank you, Guruji. Thank you for the leadership. Thank you for the devotees and the followers. Don't let your voice be silent. Like the Guruji said to Khatija, thank you for your warm reception on WhatsApp and the communication. But he said she's become like a tiger. We need to become vocal, and actually more vocal now than ever before. Let's go out. Let's vocalize all that we are learning from our spiritual leaders to ensure that our community, our city, and our nation is revived, rebuilt, restored. I thank you.